Welcome back everyone, and this is the basic deck guide, and in this guide series I'm just trying to help you create a basic card deck from all the basic cards you start the game with, and hopefully help you make the most effective, the most balanced deck you can have for each of the specific classes. In the last video I covered the warrior, and in this video I'll be showing you the basic shaman deck and the cards you should have and pretty much what they should do. The first card we'll be looking at is the Rock Biter weapon, and this is a weapon that will give either your shaman 3 attack, or you could give it to a minion and that minion will have +3 attack. You can implement this in various ways. You could use it as early board removal, like for example if the enemy, it's turn 1 for example, or it's turn 2 and the enemy hero is used his coin and he's played a Bloodfen Raptor turn 1 for example, and you could use your Rock Biter weapon on yourself, gain +3 attack, and you can clear the Bloodfen Raptor, and then in the next turn for example you can play Swamp Ooze, just as an idea. So yeah, it's usually used to clear off weapons, clear off minions off the board and gain you some board control. And keep in mind that in terms of the Shaman mana curve, you know that most of your minions cost the most quantity of minions you can have are within the 2 to 4 mana region. So just know that when you've got 2 to 4, let's just say 2 to 4 mana and above, you're playing 2 mana, 3 mana, 4 mana cost minions. So those are the minions that are supposed to carry the game for you. You've got a strong early game that leads into a strong mid game, so if you can gain an advantage in the early game, that's the best way you could play it. You use that early advantage to lead you into a strong mid game, and then you can start summoning totems with your minions. There are 4 different totems that have a 1 in 4 chance of being summoned, so it's an equal chance for each of the 4 totems. They are not part of the mana curve and they're not part of your deck. You cannot choose which totem you're gonna have in your deck from the hero power specifically. There's only other totems that you can get, which are cards, but those are non-related to your hero power at all, so just keep that in mind. Swamp Ooze and Bloodfen Raptor are obviously the 2 best picks you could have for 2 mana basic card drops, as Swamp Ooze has got the battle cry to destroy your weapon, and it's 2 mana for 3 attack and 2 damage, which is good stats, same as the Bloodfen Raptor. But this one, the Swamp Ooze, is better because it's got the ability to destroy the opponent's weapon, which is always good. You're giving him less options to clear your early board creeps, which is always good. And the Bloodfen Raptor just trades very well with any minion that has 3 damage or less. So for example, if you could look at some 3 mana cost minions, for example, if the guy plays Ironfur Grizzly, which is a 3/3 taunt, your Raptor can still clear it and it only cost you 2 mana. So keep that in mind. It's a relatively good basic card to have. Flame Tongue Totem is a totem that gives the minion on the left of the totem and the minion on the right, the adjacent minions, +2 damage. And this is the only totem you'll have in this basic deck that is not part of your hero power. Like I said, the hero power only has 4 totems, so this will be a 5th totem you could potentially have. And it's really good in buffing minions on the board. So for example, if you had a Swamp Ooze and a Raptor on the board, you could place the Flame Totem in between the Bloodfen Raptor and the Swamp Ooze, and now all of a sudden there are 5/3 minion, a 5/2 minion and a 5/2 minion on the board that the hero has to deal with, and it can be really scary because these are now minions that can clear 4 mana cost minions, 5 mana cost minions, and they only cost 2 mana, so they can become threats with Flame Tongue Totem. But you can also use it to buff bigger creatures to do even more damage if you want, and bait out hexes and stuff like that. Novice Engineer, as much as it may be nerfed, I still believe that draw power is very strong. It's a concept that you must grasp, that the more cards you have, the more options you have potentially to either overcome an obstacle like a difficulty you're facing in the match, or to extend your lead, or to try claw back into the game by getting that extra 1 card which could help you gain back from the losses you've made. So Novice Engineer is still a good card, and if you can find a way of protecting it, it can easily trade with other 1 mana and 2 mana cards, which is always good. You're making more use out of the nerfed card. The other card we'll be talking about is Hex. Hex is good as is pretty much it's a removal spell, even though it doesn't really remove the minion off the board. The nice thing is you transform any minion into a 0/1 frog with taunt. So, for example, you can use Novice Engineer to kill whatever minion you've turned into a frog, and it's gone. So if that person played, for example, Lord of the Arena, which is a 6/5 taunt, then, for example, that Lord of the Arena will become a 0/1 frog. All the attack it had is gone. It was a waste of mana to play it. All the HP it had is gone. And you can just clear it off easily and try avoid that big minion at all costs to make the trade even better in your favor. Like I said, Shattered Sun Cleric is a must in every deck, as it's a really balanced card. And it's a really good low... for basic cards, it's really good. Even in more expert decks, it can find its place, I believe, as it's a 3 mana card which has 3 damage. So you may say that's the same damage as a Raptor, and it's got the same HP as a Raptor, for example. So you may say, why not just get a Bloodfen Raptor? But the Shattered Sun Cleric has a Battle Cry, which is an ability that occurs when you play it. And you can buff any minion that you have on the board, including your totems. Actually, you can buff your totems and give them 1 attack and 1 HP. So you could make a totem that doesn't attack, for example, have an attack. And now that becomes a minion on the board that the opposing player has to deal with as well. Or you could buff your bigger minions for more damage, or you could buff your Novice Engineer and give it 2 attack and 2 HP also to make it trade, or anything. You can do stuff with that. The only time I would believe that a Shattered Sun Cleric is bad is if, let's just say, you're behind in the game, and you're not leading, and you're trying to find a way to crawl back into the game. Playing a Shattered Sun Cleric on its own is bad, as the battle cry goes to nothing. If you could battle cry the cleric itself, like use the battle cry on the Sunlight Cleric, then it would still be a good card. But playing it on its own is not really a good thing. So it's not a card you can trust to do wonders for you on its own. That's the bad side about it. Chillwind Yeti's just got good stats all across the board. 4 mana for 4 damage and 5 HP is unrivaled for any basic card, really. It's just amazing. So it's a must get 2 of those. No Mission Engineers are good. As I said, card draw is good, and it's got a lot of HP, so it can trade a lot with smaller minions. Sanjin Shield Master, you only need 1 of these, as one of the hero powers is to summon a 0/2 taunt, so this would be like your second taunt in your deck technically, but you could have multiple 0/2 taunts if you're lucky. If you want taunts and you're lucky, you can get from hero core. So you only need 1 Sanjin Shield Master, and it's got 3 damage for 4 mana, and it's got 5 HP. So in terms of basic card taunts, this is a really good one to have, I believe. So get 1 of those. Wind Speaker is a 4 mana card for 3 damage and 3 HP, which is not really as good as it could be for 4 mana, but the one thing you have to consider is that it gives a friendly minion Wind Fury. And Wind Fury is the ability for your minion to attack twice. So for example, if you had a Chillwind Yeti on the board, you could summon Wind Speaker and then give Chillwind Yeti Wind Fury, and then you can do 8 damage, for example. Excuse me. So that this is another buffing card you can have, and buff other minions on the board. Bloodlust gives all your minions on the board plus 3 attack on the turn they attack, which is really strong on this turn, by the way. So if you just played minions and then played Bloodlust, you'd lose the Bloodlust on the turn they get to attack. So you make sure you use Bloodlust on the turn you want your minions to attack. So for example, if you've got a lot of totems on the board and you've got a lot of 2 mana cost, 3 mana cost minions on the board, you can now play Bloodlust, and let's just say you've got the maximum of 7 minions on the board, and then you all give them Bloodlust. That's a lot of damage. That's a lot of damage for the turn. You could potentially clear the enemy player's board and deal damage to him, as even, for example, that 0/2 taunt totem that's in totemic core can all of a sudden become a 3/2 taunt totem, which is really good, which is like having a Shattered Sun Cleric, for example. So Bloodlust is really good, but you only need 1 of those, as you can only really use it effectively if you have multiple minions on the board. If you're using it on 1 minion, that's kind of a waste because it costs you 5 mana to do that. So keep that in mind. Now coming up onto the late game cards, we've got Frostwolf Warlord, and this is a 5 mana for 4/4. So you may be thinking to yourself that those are not really good stats actually. But then one thing you have to understand is that it's got a battle cry, and it gains 1 attack and 1 damage for each other friendly minion on the battlefield. So if you've got a bunch of totems and a bunch of minions, for example, you've got six minions on the board, this card will potentially become a 10/10 for 5 mana. So it's an extremely strong card if you are planning on flooding the deck and doing a rush down on your opponent. This is a really good card to have, as it comes out pre-buffed without you having to place any buff placers on it at all. As we said, in the warrior deck, the Boulder Fist Ogre is a very good card for its stats: 6 mana for 6 damage and 7 HP. It trades well with any, for example, if the person played Stormwind Champion, you could trade your Ogre for the Stormwind Champion. You could trade your Ogre for the Core Hound. You can't trade your Ogre for your War Golem, but the War Golem will be left on 1 HP. Then maybe you could use your Novice Engineer to kill it. And it trades better than Lord of the Arena because it's got more HP than Lord of the Arena for the same armor. For the same mana, sorry. And it's got the same damage. So really, Boulder Fist Ogre comes out on top in that regard in terms of trading big creatures for big creatures. It's just the better monster to have. And of course, if you can buff it, all the better with the Shattered Sun Cleric. You can buff the Boulder Fist Ogre to become a 7/8 for 6 mana. All the more better, and you can clear War Golem with that, for example, and that's when the Ogre really becomes scary. And of course, it's good 6 damage to the opponent's face. You can really win a fight. You could win a match with the Boulder Fist Ogre. Fire Elemental is a good card. As soon as you play it, it's 6 mana for 6 attack and 5 damage. It's a really strong card, and as you play it, instantly deals 3 damage. So that's a really good battle cry to have in terms of clearing the board and dealing damage to the enemy hero. Stormwind Champion is your pretty much your last early game card, and it gives your other minions +1 attack and 1 damage, and this goes for your totems as well. And I think we've already discussed the importance of having, if you have multiple minions including totems, you can buff them to become minions that deal damage themselves instead of having no damage at all. So a Stormwind Champion can really be that icing on the cake when you're trying to secure your lead. If you've got more minions on the board, you've got board control, you can play a Stormwind Champion to extend this board control by buffing all your minions. So pretty much that's my basic Shaman deck, and in every basic guide I'll link a GIF, not a GIF but a picture of all the decks in a picture, I guess. And these will be all the basic decks that I'll talk about in each individual video, but you can have a picture of all of them that you can use as reference when you're building all your decks. So thanks for listening up and enjoy your day.